Okay, so here we have all 4 bracelets all completed. Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL, and today I am going to make a bracelet that sort of has this kind of bouncing effect. I think that's what really enticed me, was just this image I had seen. Now, here I am. I'm going to trade one color to one side and one color to the other in order to make it so that way I can have my 2 bright oranges coming from the right and that yellow coming from the left. So I'm going to make 4 of these bracelets. And I've started here with one of the more difficult ones. On the variegated ones I do later, you don't have to do this trading effect. But here, because these are solids and that I want them to stand out as dramatically as they do, I had to trade it. Now, and this all comes down to like doubling up the string and being able to pull off these kind of effects. I suppose there might be a way of doing it with a single string, maybe tie each color into a knot and then hide it underneath some macrame that you make the loop out of, or just don't have a loop and have, a single string going off. But in this instance, I'm doubling up the string, and this is how I'm kind of getting away with it. And you'll notice there's going to be a few times here where I'm going to pull the orange that came from the left side just to help kind of keep making sure that loop is held really nice and tight, because that's going to be really important to giving this a nice, good, clean look. Now, I take 4 of the pairs and get those, looped over the top of the group. And then it's the one orange, and that leaves just the one. In this case, the background, it looks kind of red here, which is, I'm not sure if that's from the lighting, but it's way more like a burgundy. So yeah, it's makes for a really high intense contrast. I think that might actually be why my camera is not taking to it. Burgundy is one of those kind of purples that kind of confuses cameras and makes them think that their white balances out. So regardless there. Okay, so here's the orange. Now, as I go to do the other side, you'll notice that I don't put all the strings right at first. And why I did that was by just doing like one row at a time or so, I can kind of better get this thing secured, because as it is right now, if I just gave it a little tug, that orange string could kind of get pulled apart, or that I have that yellow string in there that could get pulled away. So I really kind of want to get, like I said before, like the cornerstone, the beginning of the whole bracelet, getting that to start out really nice and clean will give it a much nicer look overall. Like even after half an inch down or whatever, you will still notice that there is a difference if you start off really well. So that's why. Mind you, I really like this design. I'm not sure where it came from or whatever. I had basically I bookmarked a whole boatload of photos, and then did a bunch of screenshots or something. So I have like probably 80 different bracelets that were of an inspiration of one kind or another. And I have to say that none of these came out exactly right. I mean, well, that's subjective, correct? Can we all agree that how these things play out is an entirely subjective thing? Because and you'll kind of see this as we go along, there is the ability to change how they interact with each other, or how they interact with the sides of the bracelet. So you'll see this here just a little bit. Let's okay, so this first row, bring the reds down. Obviously the orange has to go over top of the red in order to make it stand out. Mind you, all my string here and these are cut to 1/3 lengths. And at the end, I'll explain how that wasn't exactly necessary, but I'm certainly glad I did it. Okay, and then there's just that one little at the end. So this means that the yellow is going to be able to come all the way straight to the end before bouncing back, which is pretty cool. By the way, this is a super fast pattern. I did 4 of these bracelets. I had the majority of them done yesterday. I just had to do some finishing up and do the recording and then do the braiding and stuff today. So, oh, hit the camera. Yeah, it's occupational hazard trying to have the camera there so you guys can see. It's that won't be the last time that I bump that. So, okay, so now the yellow is going to come all the way down and it's going to bounce off that very last string. In fact, at no time does either of the orange or the yellows ever actually go without bouncing off the edges. They will bounce on in the inside part, and I'll kind of explain that when we get to that bit in just a minute here. It's going to be, so this one is to the right, then to the left, and now as it has the ability to come back in, it will appear like a bounce. I kind of picture like the old Pong game. If you guys ever had back in the old Atari days and stuff, like Pong used to bounce off the side, or classic, the DVD player. Kids, if you're young and stuff, ask your parents about the DVD player and how that DVD thing used to bounce around on the screen, because it's a lot like that. And if you're old enough to remember that, kudos, thank you, welcome to my channel. We're going to get along great. All right. So now for that orange to bounce, what I'm going to do is I want to bring in 2 rows all the way down to where that orange is, right? So basically 4 knots each. And at that point, I can bring the orange one down 2 and bounce it back again to the right, which gives it that neat little effect, like it just sort of bounced out of nowhere, right? And see, now I'm going to just 1 over the whole group, bring that down. Because once it bounces down, the rest of the strings get to come down an extra 2 spaces. So again, doing longer lines of knots kind of helps to speed things up. Oh, you can see here, I'm trying to organize out pulling up 2 that won't disrupt the whole group too much or make it kind of stand out kind of weird at that top point. So that's what that was all about. Okay, so here this comes down. Mind you, I think there might be a spot in the videos here where you might have seen where I don't follow my own rules. I think I actually brought some more than just the 2 down. And then I was like, oh, but that just wastes my time. I have to do 2 more rows down. And so yeah, I try to give you guys the insight, even if sometimes I miss it myself. So hopefully it helps you guys out, and by just mentioning it, hopefully it reminds me that I need to pay attention. All right, there we go. And like I said, this will come down. The first one's a regular knot, and then the one after that is a left and then a right. This is a little bit more advanced than, just something for beginners, just a heads up in case you are just starting on bracelets. I have a whole playlist that you guys can go check out if you're just starting. If you've been around a little bit, then you should understand how that works. It's just going to the left and then to the right. Gives you those nice crisp little corners for making little things like this. Now, the red and red, that doesn't matter which way you tie it, left or right, because it'll still always be a red knot. The next one has to be the yellow, because the yellow is always on top in this design. And then it'll be another red on red. I think I stopped to get a drink. What the heck? Okay, so the yellow comes back and it's going just that one space because the yellow had crossed over top of the orange. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to bring the orange this time over top of the yellow. It's not entirely necessary, I suppose, but I kind of like the whole over-under thing, kind of making it pseudo-Celtic-like, I guess. So here comes the orange. And it will go all the way down to the end, and it too will bounce. So notice sometimes like that, like how I kind of tug it and kind of shape things up. That's all about like knowing my tension and knowing that something seems to be a little bit skewed, and kind of you can make corrections as you go along. It's an important, helpful way of kind of helping to shape these things along and getting it to go the way you wanted it to. Okay, so now the orange is down at the bottom. At this point, the only possible thing you can do is bring a red down because it's the highest point of the whole bracelet. There's literally nowhere else you can go. And these are the last two strings, so I will flip this over top of the one and work my way down. And this will come all the way down, but not cross over the yellow. In fact, I will bring everything all the way down until I run out of anything I can use on the left-hand side, and then I can bring the yellow all the way down to the left. And that's partially, like I was saying, what makes it actually so fast. So, yeah, this is way cool. I absolutely love how this whole thing works out. And like I said, as far as like, because you're doing long rows and because you can kind of, I think it's partially also the whole psychology of things are moving along quickly. You can do one zone, like I'll take a break after I've done the zone. That makes a pattern like this kind of move so quickly. Oh, see, I accidentally went over the yellow there. And despite the fact that all of these patterns or all these bracelets look different, the pattern is relatively the same, and that's why I'm going to show you all of them at once. I really had a lot of fun with this. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this as well. The pattern's over on my website. You can go over there and give it a try. Each one of the bracelets, except for the last one, has a little bit of a flaw. They were meant to have that little bounce, like that orange, that one we just did. They were all meant to have that, but each time I somehow, got distracted and it didn't happen. So one of them is done exactly right. And you'll have to take a look at the final product and see if you can figure out which one it is, because I'm not telling you. Because, And in fact, I'm pretty certain that if I didn't mention it, you guys would never have said, oh, that one's, got a flaw, because it's really totally subtle. So, the bottom right-hand corner, the white, has a rainbow variegated and a grayscale variegated. And I have to say that the grayscale variegated might have been one of the most difficult, scary ones out of the whole thing, because part of it was white, and trying to match that up on the white was absolutely making me insane. Like, do I have the right string? Do I have the right string? Do I have the right string? So, yeah, once I kind of got it going and once I was sure of where it was, then, it was a whole lot less of a problem. But you can see, though, that because of the choice of the colors, how much more that rainbow stands out against a white background. So if you were asking me how to do this, I would say that the strong point is having a great contrast between what's going to be the lines and what is your background. So yellow with the blue worked out good. The orange on blue worked out really good. The burgundy with the neon yellow and orange, that worked out really good. So I imagine you guys could come up with oodles and oodles of other combinations. Variegated strings is fun with this because the pattern is so distinct, and with a good contrast, you can get it to make changes. And because it's a simple design, it's sort of, the brain can actually see like, oh, this one just is moving along and then it changed. Whereas if you put it in something too complicated, you kind of lose track. You don't get that same wow effect. So yeah, I wish there was more I could actually tell you. I think I'm not going to say this is super difficult. It is, in my mind, intermediate at best. I think a beginner watching this might even be able to tackle it just because, they saw how the knot went. I mean, in my early days, if I had seen that, I'd been like, wow, okay, got it. And then I would have probably ran with it. So I don't know. If you think you can do it and put the hashtag inspired by AKAAWOL, and because I'd like to see what you guys do. Or if you come up with some additional ideas, because I think if you look at mine, all of them are slightly different. I think there's a whole huge room here to make it completely unique, do something completely crazy with it. And I'd like to see that as well, because, I think some of those are the ones that would probably inspire me to try even something newer, different, because I'm always up for that. I love the notion. And you guys are the best. I mean, seriously, my fan base comes up with some amazing stuff. Okay, so here we have all 4 bracelets all completed. And I kind of stopped before I got to the braided part because I wanted to show you this. Despite the fact that it looks like all the blues get used just as much as, say, in this case, the orange, or in this case, the yellow and orange, that's not true. In fact, here's where those end, and we keep going and keep going and keep going, and this is where the blues are ending. Why is that? Well, because as these are going sort of back and forth, they're only using about half as much as the one that continually stays out here invisible. So that's really a thing. So when I cut the strings, I cut everything in here is cut to 1/3 of a skein, right? So, and there's a video for that. You can go watch that video and see how to do that. But in reality, if you're trying to be really conservative, you don't need the backgrounds to be cut nearly as long. But you really, if you're going to have anything left to braid, in fact, I'd say these are almost probably too short to actually do a kumi if I wanted to try to kumi it out. So I'm just going to have to normal braid all of these. And that's it is what it is. So here they are. There's 4 of them. This was the first one. This is in my mind, that's the one I thought would be kind of cool. And then obviously they all came out to be pretty cool. And they're all going to be given away. All you have to do is leave some comments, and that's doesn't cost you anything, and it will help Google to kind of help make my channel a bit better and a bit more noticed. So kind of a win-win if you ask me. So I'm looking for 4 winners, and that could certainly be you. Be sure that you subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, don't get your strings in a bunch.